Let's go back to Jim in Shanghai. And Jim, it's been a pretty busy day for the PM. What did you make of his speech to the Bao Forum?
He spoke of the fact that he was here not to do a deal, but to be a friend to China. He spoke glowingly too of the work that China had done, the Chinese government had done over the last 2 to 3 decades, along with Japan and South Korea, in lifting so many people out of poverty, a very significant feat, he suggested. But as you may recall, there was considerable irritation in China last year about Australia taking sides with Japan over the dispute between China and Japan over the Diaoyu Senkaku Islands in the East China Sea. And rather than taking that up once again, what he did was to refer to the search for MH370, which of course is taking place under Australian leadership, but with significant Chinese involvement, Japanese involvement too, and said this showed what the countries of the Asia-Pacific could do, along with the United States, when they set their minds to it, and that was, in a sense, a benchmark of the way in which the countries should cooperate rather than behaving as they did over such other issues and disputes.
Of course, he has 600 business executives in tow for Australia in China Week. What have they been up to?
Well, they've been very busy too. No fewer than 600, as you say. Also a whole bunch of state premiers here as well. They've been spending the day in meetings, briefings, getting the inside running, as it were, from Chinese business executives about what it takes to do business in Australia, and also Australians with considerable experience here, both in Shanghai, Beijing and other parts of China. Let's take a listen now to the impressions of a few of the delegates.
We have clients in Sydney that want to acquire abattoirs and supply beef to China. So we're looking, this delegation is a fantastic delegation. We've met a lot of interesting people, some good contacts, and I'm hoping when I get back to Sydney, where I'm based in Sydney, that we can continue to foster the dialogue and develop some good relationships.
We're looking at developing social outcomes in regards to health in remote communities, and also market inclusion and raising opportunities for people in rural, remote and regional areas in Australia to gain market access and opportunities to benefit their communities.
One of the challenges for Australian manufacturers is that at the moment they're fighting so hard on the domestic retail front that to actually think about export is a whole other game. So we're just trying to lead the industry and to get them to think more about reducing their reliance on the domestic retailers and to be able to think more about export as a way to be able to grow, scale and get efficiencies in your business and explore new revenue opportunities.
Well, let's get back to the free trade agreement, Jim. The Prime Minister has said he wants it done by the end of the year. What's it going to take to get it across the line?
Well, the prospects are certainly better than they were a few months ago when China was angered, as I said before, about Australia having taken sides with Japan over its dispute in the East China Sea. The mood seems to have softened a bit. I suspect that the approach that Tony Abbott demonstrated today in Buao too will not have hurt, but Australia will still have to make significant concessions, particularly on the front of Chinese investment in Australia. I spoke about this and other issues relating to the FTA with Michael Wadley, a long-time business consultant here in Shanghai. Michael Wadley, it's good to be talking to you.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Nice to be here.
The road to a free trade agreement between China and Australia has been bumpy, to say the least. Do you get the sense that there is now a genuine prospect of getting this done by Tony Abbott's deadline, that is the end of the year?
Yeah, I mean, I'm an optimist, Jim, or a positivist, I call it, but I think it's quite likely. I'd like it to happen. Whether it'll be to the extent that different sectors or lobby groups want is another question, but it'll definitely, I think something will happen, yeah, for sure. What really is in it for Australia? What would be in it for the clients that you work for to actually have an agreement that was, say, akin to, if not in detail, generally
those that Australia has signed very recently, both with Japan and South Korea?
Well, I divided it into two. So there's inbound into China and there's Chinese investment going the other direction, because I work in both areas. On the inbound, it's primarily in agricultural commodities, food products. I think it's a combination.
And where are the opportunities there? Is it simply in the fact that as China gets wealthier, its demand for high quality protein grows, that it's about food security, or is it also about Australia as a quality source of reliable food?
It's all of those things. The food security is more about quality of food as opposed to shortages of food. You know, China has enough money to feed itself, or to pay for the goods, whether it be the government or the consumers. The growing middle class keeps getting talked about. It's more about the quality of food here is a bigger issue for those people with the money. We should maybe, if we can, step up the game a little bit in terms of the Australian brand as a national brand, and emulate the Scandinavians or the Kiwis in terms of the greenness. Australian food product is definitely seen in that light. So that's seriously important.
Michael Wadley, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks, Jim. Good to be here.